Those of you that have listened to this podcast for a long time know that last year, when Aaron Rodgers signed with the New York Jets and left the Green Bay Packers, I was not that high on the Jets. I predicted them to win somewhere between 8 and 9 games in the 2023 season. I did not buy that they were legitimate Super Bowl contenders. I did not think their offensive line was obviously a strength. I thought that they were bottom five in the league. And I thought, even with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and Brees all running back, and they brought in Dalvin Cook, I thought they were missing some pieces on the offense side of the ball. Again, I didn't think the offensive line was going to hold up. I thought they were third in their division behind Buffalo and Miami. And even with the injured Aaron Rodgers and even with Zach Wilson and whoever the hell they had a quarterback, they were still third in the division. They won 7 games. But this offseason, I took a look at the Jets and the rest of their division, and I said, hey, Buffalo, they pretty much redid their entire secondary. They lost Jordan Poyer to Miami. They lost Tre'Davious White to the Rams. They traded Savon Diggs to Houston. There's a lot of missing parts there when it comes to the Bills. And even though they still have James Cook, and even though obviously Joe Brady redid the offense, it's going to be a lot more Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, two tight ends, and they still have Josh Allen, that whip of an arm at quarterback. It just doesn't feel like Buffalo is going to be as good this year. And then, of course, Miami also lost a lot of parts on the defense side of the ball, as well as Robert Hunt at the offensive line that they need to replace. And also, Miami, you can't trust them down the stretch in November, December, because we all know how Tua Tagovailoa plays in cold weather. With that, and with obviously Brees all being healthy for the Jets, and with the addition of Tyron Smith at left tackle, and with the addition of Morgan Moses at right tackle, with the addition of Mike Williams to that number 2 wide receiver spot to complement Garrett Wilson, I took a look at the Jets, and obviously that defense has been spectacular and has a bunch of talent and will continue to be spectacular. And I said, this is the year for Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. I have not said Super Bowl, but I have said this is the year they could win the AFC East for the first time in forever. And all of this prediction talk from me obviously comes in May, June, July, August, and then I get my official predictions come Labor Day 2024. But yesterday, my initial 2024 early NFL predictions may have taken a hit because I did not like the fact that Aaron Rodgers has decided to skip mandatory minicamp. I think it's a terrible look. Obviously, he's subject to fines, and Aaron made up some BS excuse that he's overbooked or something. But when your leader has talked all off season about, hey, we need to get the non-football stuff out of the building, everybody needs to be focused, and then Aaron goes ahead and skips mandatory minicamp. And I don't even like for quarterbacks, by the way, to not be at voluntary minicamp. I truly believe the relationship between the quarterback and the offensive line, the relationship between quarterbacks and wide receivers, where you build Super Bowl habits, where you build Super Bowl chemistry, where you start to become a Super Bowl contender is right after the draft in that late April, May, now early June period, where you're at voluntary workouts, when you're at mandatory minicamp, going into July, when you get into training camp and everybody's there and you start forming bonds. And when everybody's not there, and especially when one of your leaders is not there, and again, especially when he said we got to get the non-football distractions out of the building, this is a non-football distraction. The Jets have another non-football distraction as well in Haason Reddick, who is holding out for a new contract. And this one is strange because Bryce Up, the former Jets, starting defensive lineman, he ended up signing with the Philadelphia Eagles in free agency. Well, the Eagles then traded Haason Reddick, who has 1 year left on his contract, and Reddick had 2 amazing years in Philly. You can make a case 2 years ago, he was the defensive player of the year, in my opinion. Well, the Eagles trade him right back to the Jets for a 2026 conditional third round pick. And we saw with the Eagles when they traded for AJ Brown, and we see this all the time, that usually when you trade for a player that's on the last year of his deal. As a part of that trade, you're already working with his agent and you're signing the player to a contract extension. That has not been the case with the New York Jets and Haason Reddick. And the even more troubling aspect of it is Robert Saleh, a couple days ago, specifically said that he has not had any contact with Haason Reddick since joining the New York Jets. Doesn't that sound like a little bit of an issue? Doesn't it sound like the issues that were here with this Jets team last year, a lack of leadership, a lack of accountability is still there? Doesn't it sound like obviously they tried to get rid of Nathaniel Hackett? Now that story is out there. Doesn't it sound like that's Aaron Rodgers, sort of personal offensive coordinator? Doesn't it sound like that to an extent Aaron Rodgers and not Joe Douglas and not Robert Saleh is running the New York Jets? And hypocrite Aaron Rodgers, who I have not knocked him at all for going on a Dartmouth retreat. I actually would like to try a Dartmouth retreat one day and see what it's like. But doesn't it sound like Aaron Rodgers, who, had this whole distraction this offseason about potentially being the vice president of the United States, which was absolute and utter BS? The Jets even let this story happen. Isn't it another bad sign for the New York Jets? Now, again, this may be all May, June, July talk, and the Jets may prove me right, and they may go on to win the AFC East, and I hope I'm right on that. But I'm telling you guys, chemistry is built, and this thing matters. If Haason Reddick is not there at training camp, we have a bigger story on our hands. If Aaron Rodgers, somehow misses all training camp or misses a day or gets hurt in training camp, we have a bigger story on our hand. Now, Tyrod Taylor is there as the backup. He can win games, but, he's not anything particularly special at all. So the Jets have gone from the flavor of the month to the team that just keeps building and looking like this is their year out the Aaron Rodgers. You think they go from 7 wins with Aaron, they probably go to 10. It's the same logic we had last year when Aaron did come from Green Bay to the Jets. The difference this year is they have a great number 2 wide receiver as long as he's healthy, and they have a better offensive line to go along with that elite defense. But in the words of Aaron Rodgers, you got to get the non-football stuff out of the building. Well, Aaron, cut the bull crap. Get to New York Jets mandatory minicamp, and Haason Reddick has to get that contract issue resolved. Or if I'm the Jets, I don't even want him on the team. I need a guy that's all in, and Haason Reddick has been to a Super Bowl. He's been on good teams before, but this is more of a me move than a we move. And again, it's not good for an organization that just seems like it's still sputtering in Aaron Rodgers' cast. Like that clip from the Brandsworth podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandsworth podcast right here on YouTube.